ሰው ማይገባ Okay, I think let's go. እንጀምርና they will እየገቡ ይመጣሉ. This is the trend apparently. So ሰላም የገባችሁ ሁላችሁም እንዴት ዋላችሁ? So today the expert that would be sharing his experience, his thoughts. Today we will የዛሬ እንግዲህ ኤክስፒሪየንሱን ታቱን እንትን የሚለን የሚያሳውቀን በእምነት ይመስገን. He's one of the most creative persons that's in the United States. ዛሬ it would be about directing. So ያላችሁን ሀሳባችሁን ጥያቄያችሁን ምናምን ቻት ቦክሱ ላይ አድርጉለት. So in the meantime would like to Bemnet, if you would like to mahalla entertain the questions የሚመጡትን, sure. If not, you can do your session and then mahalla ስትጨርስ we can go to the questions Q&A on መጨረሻ ላይ ማድረግ እንችላለን. Now the floor is yours. Okay. Yeah. Now, in the meantime, whatever ያላችሁ participants በሙሉ ጥያቄ ካላችሁ just put in the chat box. So when it's done, we will go over it. ተራ በተራ ሁሉ ነው. Good. So the floor is yours. Thank you so very much, Bemnet.
So just want to make sure everybody's ready. I need to get at least one ready. Let's go. Nigga, it's 7 a.m. Nigga, I need some energy.
We're ready.
Let's do this. All right, let's see. All right, this is gonna go by fast. So my name is who am I? Who are you talking to? Who is this guy? Right. So my name is Bemnet. Go by Bem. Obviously, I'm from Ethiopia. Ethiopia is that little green little place on the earth in Africa. I went to a school called Cal Poly for architecture. However, I dropped out in my third year because my dad got sick. And my dad is this guy. That's me in the middle. And the guy on the right is Murus Yiftar. If any of you know running, he's a legend. This is a random picture of a really cool lady that I found online, which I thought you guys might find cool. Has nothing to do with anything. I'm a graphic designer, I'm a photographer, creative director, I'm an indie filmmaker, I'm married, that's my wife, Betty. We are the real life Blackish, if you've seen the show. That's my little son who was recently born, a month old, so I'm still sleep deprived. I live in LA right now. I currently work at Twitter. I love creativity, I love family, I love Jesus. Cool. Questions? No? Let's go. Really quickly though, let's quickly reflect on something, right? So I've had this amazing experience working in the US and even in Ethiopia for some really amazing brands. One thing I'll tell you is that, really, I don't take it for granted. I'm really, really fortunate to have worked at some of these like really like in my mind some of these best brands in the world. But it really was. It wasn't because I had like this amazing experience, not at first at least. And it wasn't because like I'm a special person. It really was that like I really tried hard to figure out what I wanted to do and who I wanted to work for, and I just showed a lot of passion, and I really went for it. It wasn't because I was talented. Honestly, if you saw my earlier work, it was horrible. It was nothing that I would feel proud of. But people took a chance on me, and I tried hard. I showed up on time. I worked hard, and I was disciplined, and that's I think what's gotten me to this point, with the grace of God, obviously. And then also, one of the big things in my life is I'm very fearless, and I'm gonna start off with just saying that as a filmmaker, as a person, as a creative, as a person who's passionate, who wants to do certain things that maybe is unconventional in most people's eyes, you have to be fearless and you have to go for it. I've also had a chance to work on some really amazing film projects. My very first short film is just under 3 minutes. It's called Vinny, and we're going to see it today. I worked on a mini documentary for Adidas on Ethiopia's skateboarding scene. I produced a short film in Ethiopia, which if you haven't seen, you should look it up. It's called The Other Side, and you should be able to find it on theothersideshortfilm.com. I've executive produced a couple of seasons of Yenya in Ethiopia. And I've got a chance to work on some really cool things like this short film. Somebody's mic is on. Yeah, and this on mic. And this is just a very short, select few of some of the things that I've worked on from a filmmaking standpoint. And I've worked in a lot of different types of capacities. I've written, I've edited, I've produced, I've been a creative director, as well as a director, which are very different things. And so just to, this is not to brag, but this is just to show you that, I've been really fortunate to have a depth of different types of work as it relates to film and motion pictures. With that said, how did I get started? A lot of people ask me when they see some of the work that I've done. And there's a lot of people, I've heard this phrase, self-taught. I don't believe there is such a thing. Like, you might be able to get yourself to learn something on your own without anybody showing you, but you still have to learn it. And oftentimes it's because it's a YouTube video, or like you watch somebody else do it. So I generally don't believe in being self-taught, but in the natural sense of things. I'm not traditionally schooled. I didn't go to film school. I really just kind of figured things out on my own and worked with people who really knew their craft, and became a student of the craft through other people. But I really started with corporate videos. Like corporate video ማለት like just interviews, the business. I did a lot of advertising. So my entry into film was very kind of different than most people's. And by corporate videos, some of the, I'll have an example here. I'm only going to play like 10 seconds of it, but this is the kind of stuff that I was producing and directing. Hopefully it plays. Yep.
Hi, I'm Daniel. Thanks for spending some time with me to answer a very important question. When's the best time to reinvent your angle phone? Well, let's take a page from another industry, look at Kodak. When was the best time for Kodak?
I know, boring, right? So this is where I got my start. This is where I learned like 2 camera setups and editing between 2 cameras, and like how to hide an edit, and how to direct somebody talking to the camera, and how to light it, and all these types of things. Not very creative, but it paid the bills. It's a starting point. And everybody has a different story, but this was mine. From then, I had the confidence to shoot my first short film. I wrote this film, just so you have background, I wrote this film over one weekend. It was like, I think initially something like 6 pages, and then I rewrote it a couple of days later. My brother helped me co-write it, so he helped me like really edit it down, and we came down to a 3-page script. I intentionally wanted to make it that short. Uh, it was a monologue, so single actor, single location, single camera. Um, I shot it myself. I edited it myself. I directed, obviously, myself. I cast it. I did everything myself, literally everything myself. The only assistance that I had was I had a sound guy who was recording audio for me because there was no way that I could do sound and a camera. But it literally was a hand, like a shoulder, over the shoulder camera, uh, and an actor. Um, and the editing took about a week. So in about almost 2 weeks, I had a short film that I submitted to film festivals, and it got accepted into all of the film festivals that I submitted it to. I didn't win any awards, but one of the festivals asked me to come be a speaker. So there's, this was for me a way to show that I could make a film on my own on a very, very low budget, no budget. Only budget that I had was to pay the actor and to pay for his outfit. And Thomas coincidentally funded this. It was like $500, I think. And we also used this video as a promotion for Short Film Festival in DC when we launched it. I'm gonna play this video for you if you haven't seen it. If you have, just bear with me. Nah? We'll chat right after.
Yeah, I've shot something before. More than once, too. Every time it's different, though. But your first you never forget. Yeah. It was a day just like this I can remember. You go guess me. Had to scout out the place, make sure there was a white spot. Had to be nice and quiet. I mean, come on, I'm a professional. Peace. Anyways, this punk kid, he was a bit raw, like in your face. It's yoga. All you do is stick to the script. You couldn't keep your mouth shut. That mouth like this. Look, all I'm saying is that somebody that day had to get shot. And the job had to be done right. And if it was gonna be done right, it was gonna be done by me. Because if I didn't do it, somebody else would do it. First shot was hard. It's a little shaky. But I had to lean in, shoot him again. I had to make sure the job was done right, I don't have to tell you, but don't be sure if I'm in sense, you know what I mean? So I started shooting people left and right. Shot a guy in the park. Shot a guy in his own backyard. I remember one time I shot this guy in the middle of 8th Street, broad daylight. People honking at him, screaming. I mean, hey, my name's Vinny. I shoot people. What else am I gonna do? Yeah. But what do I shoot with? Right here. The Galley Success. Ain't she of you?
All right. Actually, so here's, I have a presentation for you ready after this, which is up until now has just been an introduction about myself. But I want to tell you a little bit about that short film. The short film, I wrote it because first we had this film festival that me and Tomas had created, and we wanted a way to promote it. But I also had a desire to kind of write and direct my own short film. So I married those two and had a concept and be like to make a short film that did both. Very low budget. I shot it in color, but I quickly found out like if I really wanted to make this look good, I would have to pay a colorist, and I didn't have the budget to do that. I didn't want to pay to do that, so I just did it in black and white, which I know how to process black and white. So Also, like when I wrote it, I wrote it as a producer as well because I wanted to make sure that I could afford to shoot this. So I made it a single actor, a single location, single camera concept. Uh, and also, like, I knew I was going to edit it myself, so I also knew the kind of shots that I wanted to get done. Um, there's a lot of imperfections in the short film that if I were to do it again, I would change. But I honestly wouldn't change it because it actually has given me the ability to do things differently and better on the next project. So embrace second tip that I'd give you is embrace imperfections. So what I have for you today is like experience sharing. I'm going to tell you about some of the things that I overcame as a kind of independent filmmaker, and maybe you could use that for your own career, and hopefully this will be useful. But I want to do a quick disclaimer before I jump in. So if I show and talk about any brands or people, this is not endorsed by them. I work for a publicly held company, so I'm not here representing my company. I'm here on my own accord. I have to say this legally. So for all of the people who might see this online or somewhere else, don't sue me, don't cancel me. This is me and my opinions only. All right, let's jump in. So I've got 10 tips for every independent filmmaker. And a lot of this has been inspired by probably the filmmaker and director who has inspired me the most, who is Robert Rodriguez. And if you haven't discovered his work, it's really interesting. It's really sometimes polarizing, but I would go down the rabbit hole of Robert Rodriguez online, and we're going to see like an actual 10-15 minute long video of his at the end of this presentation. Let's shoot. So first off, indie filmmaker. What is that? What is an indie filmmaker, right? Indie stands for independent, and independent films are films that are made without the funding of a major film studio. And for the most part, most films that get made outside of kind of the Hollywood circle are generally considered indie films. However, I think as you go into Europe and some other places, there are places where you can get a lot of funding for your films. But more than likely, all of you here are independent filmmakers. Embrace it. It's a badge of honor. If your hopes are to become a mainstream filmmaker, it's good. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to become a mainstream filmmaker. That's what I'm striving for. But right now, I'm an independent filmmaker. I come up with my own funding or find funding for my projects, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, just be proud of it. So 10 tips for independent filmmakers. First one, keep it simple. This is one of those things that I've seen a lot of young filmmakers, especially people who reach out to me and want to do something, or I'll read a draft or a script or an outline. It is so, a lot of young filmmakers want right out the gate, the first project they want to make, like a Quentin Tarantino type of film. And it's great. I'm not going to discourage that. I think you should still make that film, but in the interim, make something simple that you can kind of learn the process and like learn how to become a competent filmmaker, learn how to work with crews, learn how the technique, and learn the creativity. So keep it simple. For me, as I mentioned when I did Vinny, I wanted to do something that I knew I had full control over. And if I had multiple actors, multiple locations, I knew that I would need like a bigger crew. I might need a lot of lighting equipment. I would really need to be proficient in some of the technical stuff. So instead, I put that aside and I said, I'm going to put the technical aside. I want to do the creative. I want to do my vision. And so what I did was picked an idea that I knew I could execute, wrote against that idea, and then I shot that. So first step, keep it simple, and go from there. The second, be creative. Do not be technical. I've seen a lot of filmmakers who spend hours and hours and days on YouTube learning about gear and the latest lighting thing or the latest camera thing. And I'll tell you this, I could have shot that film that I showed you with my iPhone. So don't focus on the technical early on. Focus on being creative. Focus on telling a really great creative story. And then, you know, the technical will follow. You can always learn the technical. You can always hire somebody to do the technical for you. But learn, you know, force yourself to be creative. I have a video here, which I'm trying to remember. Oops, that's right. So I'm gonna show you this quick video for the skateboarding mini documentary that I did for Adidas in Ethiopia, and I'm gonna tell you about like why it was more important for me to be creative here than to be technical. So I'll just play the first few seconds. All right, I'm gonna pause right there. So that shot, okay, maybe I can't go back to it, but that shot where you see Yared coming down the hill, slow motion, in the middle of the street, to me was a technical shot, but I was not so worried about how to pull that off. I wanted to open with a great action shot that was like beautiful and that I could shoot, but I didn't know how to pull it off. And I talked to my camera guy who was going to shoot that, and he was like, hey, you know, we don't have a dolly, we don't have all this expensive equipment, we don't have a rig for a car. So he's like, hey, do you have an SUV? I'm like, yeah, I have an SUV. It's like a bigger car, you know, the back opens. He's like, why don't I just sit in the back and I'll shoot it in the back while you drive? And I'm like, yeah, let's try that. And we tried it and it looked fine. We set up for it and we shot it, right? If I spent so much time like trying to figure out like all the like equipment that I would need for that type of shot, I really honestly, like at first I would blow my budget. I probably would do something that's going to eat up so much time and would be expensive. But instead we just got creative and we just figured it out. He sat in the back trunk, I drove the car, I looked in the rearview mirror, I was directing without even looking at the shot, but I described to him what I wanted to get, how I wanted him to be placed, and we shot it. So again, keep it simple and don't focus on the technical, focus on the creative. Tip number 2, that was what it is. Tip number 3, don't be lazy, learn the technical skills. So I know this might sound contradictory, that the technical is not important, but the technical is also important, just not as important as the creative. As a director, as a indie filmmaker, most indie filmmakers do a little bit of everything on set. You're not only directing, sometimes you're casting, sometimes you're writing, sometimes you're editing, sometimes you're doing all of these different things, right? But it's really important to be first creative and then to be second technical. So understand how you should shoot something. But sometimes you don't have to really kind of learn that by going to school. Maybe you do, but what I've done is try to talk to people and just call them, hey, how do I pull off this shot? Like, how do you do it? Like, and go try it myself. And I might not be proficient at it, but at least I'll know how to do it so that when I work with a professional, I know how to give them direction and guidance on how I want that shot captured. So technical skills are great. Get to know them. You'll become better at them with time. And one of the things that I would say is, as a young person, try to think about all the different hacks of learning to become a technical filmmaker, but more importantly, how to become a creative filmmaker. Charlie Chaplin, in my mind, is one of the most proficient creatives that also had like an amazing technical experience. So if I would go on YouTube and find out about how Charlie Chaplin shot his videos back then, it was like some of the things that he was doing was just remarkable. Obviously, Orson Welles, if you haven't seen Citizen Kane as a independent filmmaker, you should watch Citizen Kane. Not only should you watch Citizen Kane, but you should watch the making of Citizen Kane so you can understand why that movie is so revolutionary and why every filmmaker who calls themselves a filmmaker has to watch that film and has to understand how it was made. Orson Welles made that film at age 25. And he created some of the systems of filmmaking that we use today. So watch it, watch the making of, and you'll understand why it's important to be creative, why it's important to be technical. All right, my next tip: edit. I can't say this enough. I'm telling you, as a director, you will learn so much about directing by editing, and you'll know how to shoot things. You'll know what kind of things you need to shoot. You'll know what things you don't need to shoot. You'll know firsthand of how things look. So what I would recommend is shoot something on your phone, download DaVinci Resolve, which is free, completely free. You can use it's like a professional film editing and grading software, which I'm sure all of you here know of. But like, you should be able to make a film like next weekend, like just a home film. Like you just make a film about like whatever, right? Like a day in the life of me, whatever, right? Make it, edit it, and you'll understand the power of editing, and editing being a powerful tool to teach directors on how to make films. There's a whole bunch of free tutorials on Blackmagic's website on editing and how to use DaVinci Resolve. So I highly recommend go online and learn how to use DaVinci Resolve. It is really, really powerful. I've used it to edit, not just to do some color work, but it's a really great option for it. All right, tip number 5, understand the creative process of filmmaking. This is something that I've seen a lot of filmmakers, people who call themselves filmmakers, especially in developing countries, who really don't have a process. They're just like, they have a script and they just show up on set and they figure out how to shoot. There's like nothing, very little preparation in between. And so what I've done is there's these few steps which I believe are really, really important within the greater process. So these aren't all of the steps of filmmaking, but these are the important ones that I think, especially as Ethiopian filmmakers, steps that I think you really need to consider. And even within my 2.5 years of working in Ethiopia, living in Ethiopia, these are the things that I've seen filmmakers there who really weren't prepared to shoot. And yes, we ended up with something great at the end, but oftentimes it was just like we would show up to set, nobody knew what we were doing. The director and maybe the producer knew, but nobody else knew. And that's not how you want to run your project. So here's a few steps that I really recommend that you really invest your time in. So first is story. Get your story to a place where you feel like it's good. Make sure that you have 1, maybe 2 people that you trust. And it has to be people that you trust, because sometimes if you share your story with people who really don't understand the story, they're not going to give you good feedback. They're not going to help you make the story better. What you really want is make the story better. Find out where the story can improve. And the one thing that I would say is make it simple. The more complex you make your story, I guarantee you, you're gonna get lost. And your audience, whoever's gonna see it, is gonna get lost in the details. So focus on story, rewrite. Don't settle on the first draft. Make sure you hone your skills down on story. The other part that I feel like sometimes people take shortcuts is talent and crew, right? So when you're hiring your crew and your talent, at first it might end up being your friends or people that you have access to, but as you grow as a filmmaker and you start getting funding for your work, really understand how you want to cast these roles. As you're writing, have notes about the type of character that you want this to be played by. It's very easy to fall into the trap of like, I want this actor because they're so great, but they might not be the best person for that role. Or you might want this camera person because, you know, he'd be a great camera person, but you might not have the budget. So really think about the type of person that you want shooting that. So for Ethiopia Skate, I wanted somebody who had shot action sports, so they can bring a lot of experience to the table. So if I had brought somebody from the US who was just like, that shot like really beautiful films, they might not be the best person for shooting a skate video. So think about the talent, make sure you work with the talent to figure out how you're going to pull this off. Table reading. I've only seen table reading done on the project that I worked on, Yenya, as well as some of the projects that our production partners at the time, Mango and Area 51, they're really good at doing table reads. And one of the importance about table reading is this is an opportunity for you to sit around the table with your actor, with your crew, to read through the script and see how the script reads. When sometimes when you've written it down and when an actor actually reads it out, you might want to change something in the script. You might want to change the way it's delivered, or you might say, oh hey, you know what? Understand the direction as you're doing the table read, so you start taking notes as a director, as a producer, around like the script and the story, and maybe how you want to maybe mold it, and how start giving initial feedback to your talent and even your crew on how you want that performance. So table reads really important. Make sure you do it. This is a great way to get prepared. I don't see a lot of filmmakers in Ethiopia doing this. Rehearsals. I would say probably for me, it's one of the most important things. So I try to rehearse just without a camera, just to see how the performance is done, just to see how people interact with one another. So sometimes you might not be able to rehearse because of budget and timing and stuff like that, but I really believe rehearsing is really important for filmmakers, and something that could make your film better. Test shoots is also another thing that I haven't seen a lot of people do in Ethiopia, but I think it's really important. You can even do a test shoot with your phone. However, what I highly recommend is use the actual equipment that you're going to shoot. So, take, whatever camera that you're using. It could be your phone, it could be a DSLR, it could be a cinema camera. Shoot the area that you want to shoot in, or whatever the location you want to do in. Go back, put it in the computer, see how it looks. You'll be surprised. Sometimes you'll find out when you do a test shoot, it's like there is a lot of sound pollution because there is 3 churches and mosques all around you, and they're always loud. So you have to figure out, oh, hey, you know what? We need to shoot in the morning, or you might find, hey, there's not enough light, so we need to get these lights. Test shoots really help you understand what you might need to better prepare for shooting. The other thing I would say is, one thing that Robert Rodriguez does is he takes like just a really cheap handheld camcorder, like a video camera. Nowadays, I'm sure he does it with like, these like DSLRs, but he actually does the actors rehearsing the scene on set or even at home, just to see how he's going to shoot it. So he'll start framing and start doing it with just a really cheap camera. I would do that with my phone, just to see how you want it framed, and how you want it shot, which leads me to my last point, which is blocking. Blocking, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but basically it's really how you want things set up. It's how you want where you want your cameras put, where you want your actors to be, where you want the lights to be, and stuff like that. So blocking is really important, and sometimes people do that on the day of shoot. Sometimes people do that the day before, but I think this is really important that you do this. So, again, this is not the whole process, but these are the ones that I feel like are get neglected often by young filmmakers that I've seen in Ethiopia. So hopefully that helps. All right, almost there. Number 6 is break the process. It's okay that you know the process, and I think every filmmaker has to know the process, but you have to figure out a way to do the thing you want to do, right? So for me, another example is when I shot out of the back of the car. Yes, probably not ideal, but I had to know how to capture that so I could figure out how to. I had to know what I wanted to get so that I can do it in a way that's like unconventional, right? So don't worry about the conventional process. I'll give you another example. When I shot Vinny, the very last scene where he pulls out his phone and he has the rig, that was shot on a different day. The lighting was drastically different. So I added a bunch of scratches and stuff like that to kind of make it look like a creative decision. But that was as a result of like the grading looked horrible and I didn't want to reshoot it. So, but I understood the process of filmmaking. I could have gone back and shot it again and put it in, but I broke the process by saying, you know what, I'm just gonna add a bunch of effects to hide how bad that shot looked. Also, there was points where like I was out of focus and stuff like that. So I figured out how to cut back from multiple angles and use B-roll to hide all those imperfections. So know the process and break the process. Number 7, something that gets neglected a lot. Have fun. This is I can't tell you, as a filmmaker, I've seen so many people who just kind of are horrible to work with, that I would never work with, because the experience of working with them was a nightmare. And it's just like, at the end, what you're gonna have, if you're not fun to work with, you're gonna have a crew that will never want to work with you. You're gonna have a crew that's not gonna have your back. You're gonna have, talent and crew that just won't give you more, you know. But if you have fun, if you make the experience great for people, they're gonna want to stay longer for you and not charge you. They're gonna want to, on the next time you have a project and you call them, hey, I can't pay you your day rate, but can you do me a favor? They'll do that for you. But if you make your people miserable, and if you don't make this journey fun for them, I'm telling you, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it for you either. Pretty soon you're not gonna want to make films. So have fun doing it. Obviously, there might be moments where you kind of get stressed out, but just try to have fun and be creative and try to solve things. All right, filmmakers, be curious, try stuff, and really just push yourselves as a filmmaker, and to try to understand how things work, how the world works, beyond just like your day-to-day like job as a filmmaker. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I try to do when I'm at home with my family is I just try to make, I have my camera almost always with me. So I'm always shooting photos, or I'm like doing little fun projects. So with my phone, sometimes I'll make these little videos with my nephew, and I'll add effects, and like I'll learn how to do something. So these are the kind of things that I do. So at home, I'll be like, hey, I want to see if I can do like a special effects thing. So this is something that I did with my nephew a couple of years ago. All right. Nothing big, but like we had fun doing this. Like instead of them playing video games, we were like trying things, and we shot a couple of different things. And sometimes what we'll do is like we'll take like a scene from Star Wars, download it from YouTube, and we'll dub it in Amharic and have fun. I would never show this to anybody else, but guess what? These little things have made me better as a filmmaker because I'm curious about how things work. This was an effect that I found online for free, like I think it was an After Effects plugin. I'm not great at After Effects, but like I downloaded the plugin. There was a tutorial, like a 5-minute tutorial on how to do this, and I was like, cool. And if I were to do it over again, I would add like sound effects to it and like make it go, and like maybe have like a 3D little animal pop out of that portal, and just make it go crazy. But is this a film that I would ever show to anybody? This is the first time anybody outside of my family has seen this. Like probably not, but it helps me as a filmmaker, like think creatively, think about, like things that I wouldn't generally think about. And I just have fun at it, So be curious. Another thing that I'd advise filmmakers is go to art shows, check out photographers. Photographers for me are probably the most creative visual thinkers. So I oftentimes look at photographers that are doing really cool things on Instagram, for example, how they use light, how they shoot their subjects. And oftentimes I will use references of photography for a film that I want to make or how I want to shoot it. Read books, traveling is a great way as a filmmaker to be inspired by, things like, talk to people, like, I travel quite a bit, and I try to talk to the local people and see how their lives are, and I can try to find some inspiration. And then try new things. Just try, like learn how to cook something. Trust me, it'll make you think differently, and makes you a better thinker and a creative. And then you'll find that those things that you discover somehow impact the films that you make, and you'll become really a better and smarter filmmaker. Be prepared. One of my last challenges, we talked about process and understanding process, but be prepared. You want to be a filmmaker that's ready to shoot and ready to edit and ready to do all these things. Preparation is, I can't tell you enough. You should spend a lot more time preparing than actually doing it. I think storyboarding is something that I find very impactful for me as a filmmaker. I try to storyboard everything that I do. And then I quickly found out, like, a lot of really well-known filmmakers spend a lot of time storyboarding. This, can't see it that great, but this is Martin Scorsese's original storyboard for Taxi Driver. So he had exactly all of the shots that he wanted, just sketches. Anybody can do these sketches, by the way. These are really simple sketches that you should be able to map out how you want something shot. So that, guess what? When you go to your camera person, when you go to your producer, you already have a plan. You can share this with them. You can put this on a board when you're shooting, so that everybody who shows up, your actors, your assistants, all of those people will know exactly what you're shooting. And also, you'll have a checklist of all the things that you need to shoot. So you don't go back to your edit room and then figure out, oh shoot, I forgot to shoot that thing. No, you have a process and you're prepared to be able to shoot the things you want to shoot. So really important that you're prepared. My last tip, just shoot it. All right, it's not Nike. Hopefully you saw that, it's Mikey. But I can't tell you enough. Stop. There's a point that you have to stop watching these YouTube videos and stop attending these classes, like this one, and then just pick up your camera, shoot and edit, and get it out there. That's the best way you learn. I'm telling you, you will forget 90% of the stuff that you've seen on YouTube videos. Trust me. Every filmmaker will tell you this. You will not know how to make a film until you make a film. And this applies for everything else. I remember somebody once told me, I'm like, I'm really, my drawing skills are not that great. And I remember telling him, like, I saw one of my friends' drawings. He says, oh man, I wish I could draw like you. Like, I suck at drawing. He says, well, you suck at drawing because you don't draw. If you spend enough time drawing, you will get better. Eventually you'll get better. So if you spend time shooting and editing, I guarantee you'll get better as a director. You will get better as an editor. Just go shoot. There is no excuses. Nowadays, all you need is a phone and a laptop. And I'm pretty sure all of you here have both of these. So don't get fancy. You don't need lighting. You know, the best source of light is Mother Nature. You got sun. Shoot near windows. Shoot your actors near windows. That's the best type of light that you'll ever get. So don't worry about all the technical stuff. Shoot black and white, super easy to grade, and shouldn't have any excuses. There's a video that I have, which is about 15 minutes long. I know we are at 7:40. We're at 45 minutes in right now. I'm gonna stop right here and answer any questions, but I really do want to play maybe 10 minutes of this video. I don't know how much time we have, if we can go over or not, but I'm also going to make this presentation available to everybody, so I'll send it through. So you should be able to have this presentation. I don't care if you use it, if you present it, do whatever you want with it. I'm all about sharing information. So if you want this presentation, I'll send this to you. All right, I'm gonna stop real quick and see if we have any questions before I jump into this last couple of slides. I didn't know. Did I go too fast?
Nope, you're good.
All right.
No.
Do we have any questions? Or should I just do the last part? ሰላም ነው። አዲስ አበባ እንዴት ናችሁ? አዲስ አበባ ነው። is everybody አዲስ ከሌላ ቦታ የመጣ ሰው አለ?
አዲስ አበባ ነኝ እኔ። እንደውም ደስ ብሎኛል። አንዱ የእናንተ ክሩ የኛ ቲም ክሩ ነኝ። አንዱ እዛ ላይ ተዋናይ ነኝ። ደስ ብሎኛል።
በጣም Thank you for saying. አመሰግናለሁ። የኛ በጣም አሪፍ ፕሮጀክት ብለው ኢትዮጵያ ከሰራቸው አንዱ ነው። እሺ question ከሌለ I want to play this video. You could in the video YouTube ላይ ታገኙ ትችላላችሁ። የዳይሬክተሩ ስም ሮበርት ሮድሪገዝ ነው። If you don't know about Robert Rodriguez, የመጀመሪያ ፊልሙ ነው የሰራው $7,000 ነው። ሙሉ ፊቸር ፊልም አክሽን ፊልም El Mariachi ይባላል። I would highly recommend watch El Mariachi. It was made about I don't know 25 ዓመት አካባቢ 30 ዓመት አካባቢ ለብቻው ነው የሰራው። ካሜራማን እሱ ነው፣ ዳይሬክተር እሱ ነው፣ ካስቲንግ ዳይሬክተር እሱ ነው፣ ሳውንድ የሰራው እሱ ነው። one man crew. I think አንድ ሌላ ሰው ብቻ ነበረ ክሩ ላይ የረዳው አክተሮቹ። So ፊልም ባጀት ያስፈልገዋል ለሚለው ጥያቄ አያስፈልገውም። You don't need it. እንዲያውም እሱ when he made his film በፊልም ነው የሰራው። ማለት ይሄ በሮሊንግ ፊልም ሳውንድ ሪኮርድ ማድረግ ማይችል ትልቅ ካሜራ ነው። ይህን የሚያክል ካሜራ ይዞ ለብቻው ፊልም የሰራው $7,000 ለፊልሙና ለካሜራው ነው ዋናውን ያወጣው። አክተሮቹ አልተከፈላቸውም። ይሄ ፊልም ደግሞ ሳንዳንስ የሚባል ፊልም ፌስቲቫል ላይ ፕሪሚየር አደረገ። ሳንዳንስ ፒፕል ቾይስ አሸነፈ። የ$1 ሚሊዮን ኮንትራክት አግኝተው ይህን ፊልም ተገዛ ማለት ነው። በ$7,000 ሰርቶት $1 ሚሊዮን ሰራ። ግን አሪፍ ስቶሪ ነበረው። ፊልም የሚያደርገውን ክላሪቲ ነበረው what he wanted to make, and he made an amazing film, in my opinion, one of my favorite indie films. El Mariachi, English dubbed ተደርጎ I think YouTube ላይ አለ። በስፓኒሽ ነበር የተሰራው ፊልሙ። but an amazing filmmaker. የራሱን all of his films Hollywood ነው የሚሰራው። ፊልሞቹን ራሱ ነው ኤዲት የሚያደርገው እንደ ዳይሬክተር። Some of the films that he's made, Sin City, I'm sure many of you have seen it. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. በጣም አሪፍ ፊልም ነው። Desperado, he made a ያን $7,000 ፊልሙን እንደገና አዳፕት አድርጎት $7 ሚሊዮን እንደገና ሰራው። So I'm just gonna play just the first few minutes of this, like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, just to show you what's possible, and then we're gonna finish this masterclass.
Hello, this is Robert Rodriguez, and I'm presenting to you the 10-minute film school, something that I would show at guerrilla filmmaking seminars at film festivals. You know, people ask me, "Oh, Mariachi, did you really make that for $7,000? How did you do that?" And it's just so hard to sit there and try and explain it. It's much easier to show raw footage from the movie, scenes, what they look like before they were edited, so you can see exactly how to put a movie together very inexpensively by yourself if need be. First of all, I shot this movie silent. What that allowed me to do actually was save a lot of film because I didn't have any film slates. I didn't have any sync slates. In fact, the only indication we had to put on the roll at all was at the head of it to show what roll we were on. And this is roll 15. You see, I just had to hold the fingers up. After that, there's no slates. Let me jump right to the cool part. This is the scene that everyone thinks cost a lot of money. People always ask me, how did you do the bus sequence, for instance, on such a small budget with no crew or stunt people or anything? So actually, if you just break it down and see, it's not that difficult at all. In fact, it's actually kind of cool. So what you're going to be looking at here is the actual raw footage of this scene and the order it was shot. There's no slates. Every time you see a flash frame, that's me starting or stopping the camera. You'll see that this is everything that I shot for this sequence, and it explains why the movie was so inexpensive, because I only shot 25 rolls of film for the entire movie. Well, let me just show you the raw footage and you can get a sense of how that could be possible. Here we go, this is my actor Carlos. He's going to run up the stairs and throw his guitar case, but you'll see that he misses in this first take. But that's all right, because the first part of it was fine. Him running up the stairs was good. I'm not going to redo the whole take. That's a waste of film. What I'll do is just punch in a little bit closer, have him toss it again, and intercut the 2 shots so it looks like I have 2 cameras running at the same time. In fact, anytime he made any progress in his whole journey through this scene, I would change the camera angle, change the position, because the feeling I wanted from the movie was that I did have a lot of time and money and cameras, and so I didn't shoot anything in a master. So basically, I'm just cutting in the camera. Since I'm also the editor of the movie, I'm just making my editing decisions as I go along, not shooting anything extra. Every time you see that flash frame again, that's me just stopping filming or starting the shooting it. I would call action, then I would start shooting. Now these pieces here look very short and very small, but when you see the finished cut, it's not short at all. It's plenty of. I'm only using a few frames because it's an action sequence, so you only need a very small amount of film. That one cable that's tied around the pole right there, we put up, fastened it from that pole to a telephone pole across the street, and then what he does is slide across this with a homemade pulley device that we had a local blacksmith make us for $12. We tested it in Carlos's backyard. Action! Now you recognize this guy here. He's one of the bad guys in the movie. Instead of having a film crew, I would just use my actors. And they're just standing around anyway, so he was helping me by pulling me in the wheelchair as I got this shot of Carlos going overhead. We're actually just waiting for our bus to arrive. Here's our bus. What I did was I got all the way down the street with a zoom lens, so that I could compact the action slowly by pushing in as he went down the line, making it look like the bus was much closer to him than it was. I also undercranked so that it would look a little faster. So he kicked the bus, swings over to his mark on top of the truck, and he doesn't follow the bus. I get that separately from inside the bus. He's already on the hood. He just hops down on front and shuffles around. And this is something I had forgotten about. I got myself in the shot by accident. See me in the rear view strip there in the bus. There's my camera wrapped in a t-shirt, and there's me back there. You see, it's almost like shooting documentary stuff. It's just you with a handheld camera, running around grabbing all your little pieces. So here we shoot it again from the outside. He's just shuffling around, we're not going very fast at all. Making it look like there's a lot of danger involved. That truck right there that he runs onto, actually, is this is the bad guys driving around in the movie. That's Carlos's truck. All my camera, it's a production truck. All my camera equipment's in the back. It followed us around everywhere. It shows up quite a few times in the movie. It's just an all-purpose shooting vehicle. Okay, so here's the truck sequence edited. Now, what you're looking at here is not the DVD copy that you have. This is my actual original $7,000 videotape that first went out to studios, the one that Columbia bought. People always ask, well, before the film was blown up and you first got it shown, what did it look like? Was it just unwatchable? Did Columbia come in and fix it all up? And actually, this is it right here. I cut offline at the recorder inch, did all my cutting straight from my original tape that came off the original negative, so it looks much cleaner than what you would have on the DVD, because by then, by the time we bought it, blew it up to 35 millimeter, distributed on film, it was much more degraded. Film negative had been handled so much that it was really worn out. I couldn't even use that negative to make a good video transfer for this DVD.
All right, really interesting, Aaron. $7,000 የተሰራ ፊልም እንግዲህ award ያሸንፋል $1 million contract ያስገኛል. So really amazing. I'm going to leave you with this quote. You are going to want to be a successful filmmaker. Don't be afraid, because success is going from one failure to the next with great enthusiasm. This is, if you remember this, then you will be okay failing. It's okay to fail. It's okay to do something that maybe isn't perfect. It's okay to make something imperfect. I wish this quote was by somebody really cool, but it was by Winston Churchill. So it is what it is. It's also a quote that Robert Rodriguez really likes. Let's repurpose the adequate, taking inspiration responsibly. That's my advice to you. And I'm a second. All right. So if we don't have any questions, I think that's my spiel.
Okay, thank you, Bam. It's been great. There's just a couple of questions, since it's from my side at least, until they start asking. So, as in your projects that you've done, because you're fit to know the sketch video for Adidas, Girl Effect videos, Delusion projects, the ones that you worked as a director, what's the biggest challenge you faced as a director? How did you, እንዴት አለፍከው? That this young people can learn so much from that.
Every single project, እያንዳንዱ project, I'm not kidding, እያንዳንዱ project ሁሉ ጊዜ ቻሌንጅ አለ። አንዳንድ ጊዜ አክተሮች ናቸው፣ አንዳንድ ጊዜ ክሩ ነው፣ አንዳንድ ጊዜ ባጀት ነው፣ አንዳንድ ጊዜ weather, like ዝናብ ይዘንባል production ላይ። እያንዳንዱ project, I'm telling you, every single production challenge አለው። ቻሌንጁ you have to embrace it. You have to say, እንዴት ነው ይሄንን creatively እንዴት ነው solve ማድረገው ማለት ነው ብላችሁ ማሰብ አለባችሁ። የኔ አሁን ለምሳሌ የኔን ሾርት ፊልም ስሰራ መጀመሪያውን ስሰራ ብዙ ኤክስፒሪየንስ አልነበረኝም። በሾልደር ነው ሹት ያደረኩት። ያኔ ስቴቢላይዝድ የሆነ ካሜራ የለም። አሁን በሶኒ ነው ብዙ ጊዜ ሹት የማደርገው፣ ብላክ ማጂክ። በጊምብል አድርጌ ነው የምሰራው። my shots are stable. The shots were shaky, so stabilize አደረጋቸው blur ያደርጋሉ ትንሽ። out of focus ነበር አንዳንድ ጊዜ። አክተሩ he couldn't get his lines. rehearse አድርጎ ነበር። ልክ ካሜራ ሳበራ አክተሩ አያስታውሰውም ላይኖች። so ላይኖቹን እያነበብኩለት like እሱ ነበር የሚመልስልኝ። እኔ I knew his lines better than him. so ምን ማድረግ ጀመርኩኝ? አንድ ላይን ይሰጠኛል፣ ያን በደንብ ፐርፎርም ያደርግልኛል። ካታረግና ወደ ሌላኛው ላይ ይላል። So what I tried to do is ልክ ሹት ሳደርገው ነው በቃ I realized ይሄ ሰውዬ ምንድን ነበር ማድረግ የፈለግኩት እኔ አንድ ሎንግ ሾት ሙሉ ፐርፎርማንሱ እንግዲህ 2 ደቂቃ ከምናምን 2 ደቂቃ ከግማሽ ነው very simple ለአክተሮች ለ2 ደቂቃ ፐርፎርም አድርጉልኝ ብትሏቸው ደስ ነው የሚላቸው በደንብ ፕራክቲስ አድርጎ ነው ይሄ ልጅ ግን አዲስ ነው የመጀመሪያ ፕሮጀክቱ ነው አክተር መሆን ይፈልጋል ግን ተዘጋጅቶ አልመጣም so ይሄ ራሱ ቻሌንጅ ነበር so ለኔ I had to figure out okay I can't ማቆም አልችልም ፕሮዳክሽኑ right now ነገ ተመልሰናና ሪሀርስ አድርገው ሹት እናደርጋለን ማለት ነው ስለዚህ instead what I try to do is በቃ give me at least አንድ ሙሉ ሴንተንስ እሱን ሪኮርድ አድርገውና I'll try a different angle ከሁለቱም አንግል አብሬ ካድ አድርገዋል አንድ ካሜራ so every single I'm telling you እያንዳንዱ ፕሮጀክት ፕሮብለም አለ ፕሮብለምን ሶልቭ የማድረግ አብዛኛውን ጊዜ ዳይሬክተር ስራ አንዳንድ ጊዜ የሲኔማቶግራፈሩ ስራ ነው አንዳንድ ጊዜ የፕሮዲውሰሩ ስራ ነው ግን the biggest challenge ብትለኝ I don't know every project because I'm very passionate about it ሁሉም ፕሮጀክት ለእኔ ትልቅ ቻሌንጅ ነው የኛ ላይ ሆነን for example ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ እኔ ቲቪ ሲሪዝ ፕሮዲውስ አድርጌያለሁ በህይወት so ቀጠር ራሱ ሁሉ girl effect you know I told them I've never done a TV series before ግን I'm willing to learn እስካሁን ድረስ ደግሞ የተማርኳቸው ስኪልዞች ወደዚህ አፕላይ አደርጋለሁ ከዛ እና the other suggestion I had is like ፕሮዲውሰሮች ከውጭ ሀገር አምጥተን ፕሮዲውስ ይምጡና እዚህ ይርዱ እኔም እዛ ባልደረባቸው የስራ ባልደረባቸው ትሬን ያድርጉን እኛም ይርዱን እንዴት ፕሮዲውስ እንደምናደርግ መጀመሪያ ሀያርግ ነው ከኤችቢኦ በጣም ትልቅ ፖርትፎሊዮ አለው በጣም ጎበዝ የሚባል ፕሮዲውሰር ብዙ እንዲያውም አሁን ተርኪ ውስጥ ነው ፕሮዲውስ እኛ ጎበዝ ሰው መስሎናል ቢካዝ ስናየው ብዙ ስራ ሰርቷል ሰውየው በጣም አስቸጋሪ ጸባዩ አስቸጋሪ በጣም አበሻን የሚንቅ I can't tell you the number of things challenges የነበረን በሱ ምክንያት to the point where at some point we had to fire to say hey ሰው የለኛ አይሆን so soon fire ስናደርገው ፕሮዳክሽኑ ስኬጁል ዲሌይ አደረገ አዲስ ፕሮዲውሰር አያረገን በቃ ከማንም ጋር ሊስማማ አልቻለም so every production challenge አለው ቻሌንጅ አትፍሩ ቻሌንጅን ሶልቭ የማድረግ ጥሩ ዲሚነር ይኖራችሁ ማለት ላይክ እንዴት ያንን ቻሌንጅ ሶልቭ የምታደርጉበትን ጸባያችሁ ላይክ agreeable likable መሆን አለባችሁ ሰውን ኮንቪንስ ማድረግ መቻል አለባችሁ basically መሪ መሆን መቻል አለባችሁ so every project is going to give you challenges
okay thank you and then an additional question so in terms of like doing a feature film or short film a producer to a director ያለው relationship ለምሳሌ like roles that could be defined for a producer versus roles that could be defined for a director usually I think these two roles are usually they butt heads with each other so it's thought that producer is more of the creative guy that shows which way that happens nagar and the producer is more of the office guy nagar that does most of the legworks that the director couldn't do because he's on set doing the creative things and the producer handles like things of the budget is a guy low or like human resource and so on and so forth not that producer ብቻ responsibility ሆኖ ሳይሆን they work together ግን majorly the producer does it ይመስለኛል እና so how does the two roles come into play during a feature film or a short film or a TV series or any type of production በሁለቱ መሃል because there's የኛ ሀገር ያለው perception of a producer is a guy with money and ገንዘብ አለው ገንዘብ ያወጣ ሰው would be the producer but I believe in the professional sense producer የራሱ job description ነገር አለው and towards the director so how does that relationship work
በጣም ጥሩ ጥያቄ especially ለኛ ሀገር እነዚህ ሮሎች በጣም well defined አይደሉም አንዳንድ ቦታዎች እነዚህ ነገሮች በደንብ ይሰራሉ አሁን especially አንዳንድ አድቨርታይዚንግ ኤጀንሲዎች አሉ ጥሩ እነዚህ ፋንክሽን የሚያደርጉ ነገሮች ኢንዲፔንደንት ፊልም ሜከር ስትሆኑ አብዛኛውን ጊዜ ዳይሬክተሩ ፕሮዲውስም ያደርጋል ሲኔማቶግራፊ ይሰራል ይህንን የሚሰራ ዳይሬክተር usually is የፕሮጀክቱ ዋና ፐርሰን ግን by definition director is the creative visionary of the project ይሄ ፊልም ሲሰራ እንዴት መሰራት እንዳለበት እንዴት መቀረጽ እንዳለበት አክተሮቹ እንዴት ፐርፎርም ማድረግ እንዳለባቸው ሎኬሽኑ የት እንደሆነ ዲሳይድ ማድረግ ያለበት የዳይሬክተሩ ስራ ነው። የፕሮዲውሰሩ ስራ የዳይሬክተሩን ቪዥን ኤክሲኪዩት ማድረግ ማለት ይሄንን ፊልም ለመስራት ፕሮዲውሰር ያስፈልጋቸዋል። ፕሮዲውሰሩ ምንድነው? የኔን ቪዥን የሚያሳካልኝ ሰው ማለት ነው። የኔን ቪዥን የሚያሳካልኝ ሰው ካስቲንግ ላይ ይረዳኛል፣ ክሩ ሃየር ማድረግ ይረዳኛል፣ ሎኬሽንስ ፒክ ማድረግ ይረዳኛል፣ ፐርሚት ማውጣት ይረዳኛል፣ ባጀት ይረዳኛል። የቤሲክሊ የዳይሬክተሩ ዋናው ፓርትነር ፕሮዲውሰር ግን ክሪኤቲቭ ሮል የለውም ማለት ፊልሙ ምን አይነት ፊልም መሆን እንዳለበት፣ ፐርፎርማንሱ ምን አይነት ፐርፎርማንስ መሆን እንዳለበት፣ ሎኬሽኑ ምን አይነት ሎኬሽን መሆን እንዳለበት ግን እንደ አማካሪ መሆን ይችላል ለዳይሬክተሩ። ዳይሬክተሩ እንደዚህ አይነት ፊልም ነው መስራት የምፈልገው፣ እንደዚህ አይነት አክተር ነው የምፈልገው፣ እንደዚህ አይነት ሎኬሽን ነው የምፈልገው ሲለው ያ ፕሮዲውሰር ሄደው አክተሮቹን ሎኬሽኖቹን አማራጭ ሰጥቷል ዳይሬክተሩ። ግን ዋናው ዲሲዥን ሜከር ዳይሬክተር። ይሄ ሪስፖንሲቢሊቲ ደግሞ ማሰብ ያለባችሁ እንደ ፓርትነርሽፕ ነው። እኔ ዳይሬክተር ነኝ እኔ የምወስነው የሚባል ነገር ማለት የለባችሁ። ፕሮዲውሰር አንዳንድ ጊዜ ጥሩ ሀሳቦች ክሪኤቲቭ ሀሳቦች ሊያመጣ ይችላል እና የእናንተ አዘ ፊልም ሜከር ፕሮዲውሰራችሁን አትቃወሙ። ብዙ ጊዜ ፕሮዲውሰራችሁን ስሟት። አንዳንድ ጊዜ ኮንቪንስ ማድረግ መቻል አለባችሁ ፕሮዲውሰሩና ባትስማሙ ኮንቪንስ ማድረግ መቻል እንጂ መቆጣት እንደዚህ ልክ አይደለሽም ማለት ሳይሆን ነው እኔ ያሰብኩት እንደዚህ ነው፣ እንደዚህ ማድረግ አለብን፣ እንደዚህ ይሄን እስቲ ሞክር፣ እንደዚህ ብለያችሁ ኢንካሬጅ ማድረግ አለባችሁ። ኢን ማይ ኦፒኒየን ፊልም ስትሰሩ ሶስት በጣም ኢምፖርታንት የምላቸው ሮሎች ከአክተሮች ውጪ መጀመሪያ የዳይሬክተር የቪዥኑ ማለት ነው አይደል፣ ፕሮዲውሰር ቪዥኑን የሚያከናውንለት ሰው ማለት ነው። ሶስተኛ ሲኔማቶግራፈር ወይም ዳይሬክተር ኦፍ ፎቶግራፊ። In my opinion, cinematographer is a photographer, an excellent photographer. Lighting የሚያውቅ ካሜራ የሚያውቅ እንዴት መቀረጽ እንዳለበት የሚያውቅ እነዚህ ሶስቱ extremely important roles። ስለዚህ ፊልማችሁን ስትሰሩ መጀመሪያ ማግኘት ያለባችሁ ፕሮዲውሰር፣ ሲኔማቶግራፈር። እነዚህ ሁለቱ በጣም ወሳኞች ናቸው። እነዚህን ባይ ዘ ዌይ ኢንዲፔንደንት ፊልም ሜከር አንዳንድ ጊዜ ሶስቱም አንድ ሰው ነው። አሁን ሮበርት ሮድሪገስ የመጀመሪያ አይ ቲንክ ሞስት ፊልም እስካሁን ድረስ የሚሰራቸው ትላልቅ ባጀት የሚባለው ራሱ ነው የሚቀርጸው፣ ካሜራውን ይዞ ይቀርጻል። በጣም የሚገርም ሰው ነው። anyway you should look him up. So ልዩነቱ again ዳይሬክተር is creative direction የሚሰጥ choice decision የሚሰራ ሰው፣ ፕሮዲውሰር የዳይሬክተሩን ቪዥን የሚያግዘው የሚረዳው ሰው፣ ሲኔማቶግራፈር ቴክኒካል አቢሊቲውን የሚቀርጽ። አንዳንድ ጊዜ ፕሮዲውሰር የገንዘብ ፕሮዲውሰር አለ ማለት አሁን ለምሳሌ ቶማስ ደባስ የኔን ሾርት ፊልም ስሰራው የኔ ፕሮዲውሰር ነበር ማለት ገንዘቡን የሰጠኝ እሱ ነው። ለአክተሩ የከፈልኩት ልብሱን የገዛሁበት ገንዘብ የመጣው ከፕሮዲውሰር ነው። ግን አንዳንድ ጊዜ ዳይሬክተሩን ፕሮዲውሰር ምክንያቱም የራሴን ገንዘብ እጠቀማለሁ፣ የራሴን እኔ ነኝ ሎኬሽኑን ሴሌክት ማድረገው፣ እኔ ነኝ ሁሉን ነገር ማድረገው። ስለዚህ ከቻላችሁ በተቻለ መጠን ስፔሻሊ ሞር ኮምፕሊኬትድ ሲሆን ፕሮዲውሰር ቅጠሩ። ፕሮዲውሰር ደግሞ ስትቀጥሩ ገንዘብ ከሌላችሁ እሺ የዚህ ቪዥን ፓርትነር ስትሆንክ ኤግዜኪዩቲቭ ፕሮዲውሰር ክሬዲት ሰጥሃል። ኤግዜኪዩቲቭ ፕሮዲውሰር እና ፕሮዲውሰር ክሬዲት ሰጥሃል። ከሆፕፉሊ ሌላ ፕሮጀክት ታገኛለች ብላችሁ ታማክራችኋለች ማለት ነው። Is this clear?
Yep.
By the way,
thank you.
Everything like this, you can look up YouTube ላይ ወጣችሁ የፕሮዲውሰር ስራ ምንድን ነው ብላችሁ you can find out Hollywood ውስጥ የፕሮዲውሰር ስራ ኢንዲፔንደንት ፊልም ላይ የፕሮዲውሰር ስራ ምንድን ነው ብላችሁ ማየት ትችላላችሁ።
Yeah, I mean, we had actually a session on producing with Susan a couple of sessions ago now. So እኛ ሀገር የነበረው perception ስለነበረ about producing versus Zalo, you know, the line producer, the creative producer, the executive producer, all different roles in producing. So Bantam experience.
አንድ ምሳሌ ልስጣችሁ። the other side short film ላይ እኔ ፕሮዲውሰር ነበር። እንዲያውም ዋና ፕሮዲውሰር ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ፊልም ሜከሩ ዳይሬክተሩ እና ሲኔማቶግራፈሩ አሜሪካ ውስጥ ነበሩ። እኔ ከኢትዮጵያ ሆኜ ክሩውን ካስት ያደረኩኝ፣ ክሩን የመረጥኩኝ፣ ካስቲንግ ነው የሰራሁት። ኢቨን ስክሪፕቱ መጀመሪያ ሲልክልኝ የስክሪፕቱ ላይ ኖትስ ነበረኝ as a producer ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ይሄን ፊልም ማድረግ ከፈለክ ይሄን ነገር መለወጥ አለብህ። ይሄ ነገር ኦቴንቲክ አይደለም ለስክሪፕቱ፣ ለሎኬሽኑ፣ ለእንደዚህ አይነት ቦታዎች እና ዳይሬክተሩ ግን የዳይሬክተሩ ምርጫ ነበር። ዳይሬክተሩ ደግሞ እኔን ኖትስ ወስዶ አንዳንዱን ነገር እንትን አፕሩቭ አደረገው ሰራም፣ አንዳንዱን ነገር ግን አይ ይሄ እኔ አላምንበትም ብሎ ያወስ። አሁን መጀመሪያ ዋናው ነገር እኔ በአማርኛ ቢሰራ ይሻላል ብዬ ነበር ፊልም፣ ግን እሱ ነው እኔ በእንግሊዝኛ ነው የምፈልገው። ኦዲየንሱም ፈረንጆች ናቸው ሞስትሊ ምናምን ስላለ አዘ ፕሮዲውሰር እኔ እሱን መስማት ነበረብኝ። ግን የራሴን አይዲያዎች፣ ሀሳቦች ለእሱ ፕሬዘንት አደረኩለት። ግን እሱ ነው ዋናው ዲሲዥን ሜከር እና ፕሮዲውሰሮቹ ይሄን ማወቅ አለባቸው። ዳይሬክተሩን ሰፖርት የማድረግ ስራ ነው ዋናው as a producer.
Okay, cool. So and then additional question. So as a director, ምን አይነት demeanor or personality ያለው ሰው would be a great director ብለህ ታስባለህ? Like threats, if there are, like, you know, ልክ ረጅም ቀጭን እንደሚባለው if there was a certain profile that you would put. One is that. ሁለት ደግሞ to be a, like, I understand, to be a great director you need to have a huge amount of perspective, ብዙ አንግል የማየት possibility ይፈልጋል. You need to see things in a different direction that normally ሰው ከሚያየው አንግል የተለየ አንግል ማየትን ይፈልጋል ይመስለኛል. So if there's, besides the personality threats, if there's this, like, do's and don'ts of a director maybe ካለ that you would say.
እኔ ይሄን ጥያቄ ብዙ I don't know if I have a good answer for this, ግን here's what I'll tell you. ለኔ እኔ in the director and the filmmaker, እኔ like what makes የኔ ፕሮጀክቶች ዩኒክ is እኔ መሆን ማለት አስተዳደጌ፣ የኔ ቫሊዩ፣ እኔ ምን አይነት ሰው እንደሆንኩኝ፣ የኔ ፐርሶናሊቲ የዳይሬክት የማደርግበትን ነገር ይወስናል። እኔ I don't personally think ዳይሬክተር እንደዚህ አይነት የሆነ ሰው መሆን አለበት። እንዲያውም the most interesting ዳይሬክተሮች ስታያቸው በጣም ልዩ ሰዎች ናቸው። በጣም ዊርድ የሆኑ ሰዎችም አሉ፣ በጣም ኖርማል የሆኑ ሰዎችም አሉ፣ በጣም ደግሞ ላይክ ቴክኒካል በጣም የተማሩም አሉ። አንዳንዶቹ ደግሞ በጣም ካሪዝማቲክ፣ አንዳንዶቹ ደግሞ በጣም የማይገባ አይነት አስተሳሰብ ያላቸው ሰዎች። when you listen to their interviews, especially እነዚህ ዳይሬክተሮች ሁሉም አይነት አለ። ስለዚህ እኔ ፐርሰናሊ ዳይሬክተር ስትሆኑ ሌሎች ዳይሬክተር ለመሆን አትጣሩ፣ ራሳችሁን ለመሆን ጣሩ። የራሳችሁ እኔ አንድ ቀን እንደኔ አይነት ዳይሬክተሮች ሰው ልጆች መሆን ይፈልጋሉ ብላችሁ መጣራችሁ ማለት የራሳችሁን ስራ ስሩ፣ የራሳችሁን ፐርሶናሊቲ እዛ ፕሮጀክት ውስጥ ጨምሩበት። the only thing that I would say is don't be a jerk. ሰውን በስነ ስርዓት ተንከባከቡ፣ ትልቁንም ትንሹንም። እኔ ንገራችሁ ይሄ ሰው በስታተሱ የሚያከብር ሰው ነው ያስማማኝ። ዳይሬክተሮች ማንም ሆነ ፕሮዲውሰሮች ብዙ ጊዜ እዚህ ሀገር ስፔሻሊ ስመጣ ጥቁር በመሆኔ ብቻ ብዙ ጊዜ አንድ ሩም ውስጥ ሲያዩን ሰዎች ብዙም ስለኔ በቃ ዝም ብሎ እንደረዳት ነገር ነው የሚመስላቸው። እኔም የተቀጠርኳቸው ብዙ ቦታዎች ላይክ ሲኒየር የሆነ ፖዚሽን ነው የምቀጥረው። በሞመንት እኔ ማንነቴን ሲያውቁ የሚያከብሩኝ አነጋገራቸው የሚለወጥ ሰዎች አሉ። shouldn't be like this. እኔ በቃ የምጠብቀው ከዳይሬክተር ትልቁንም ትንሹንም ክሩንም አክተሮቹንም ሎኬሽን ላይ ጥሩ በቃ ሰዎችን እንደራሳቸው ትሪት አድርጉ። and I think you'll become a good director. ግን እዚህ ላይ ፎከስ ላይ አታድርጉ። just do you የራሳችሁን ስሩ። That's my biggest but most important advice. I should have put that in the presentation.
Okay. Luna, I think you have a question, so continue.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, Bemnet.
Hey, Luna.
Thank you so much for a great session. It's very informative, and I can really relate to you because I'm also an architect and a photographer. And I can vouch that being a photographer actually gives you a pretty good perspective, and it enhances, I guess, your creative side. But I wanted to ask, how did you I feel like I'm too into my head as I create an idea, and I find it difficult to bring it down and actually make it doable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And how did you teach yourself to bring it into action and write it down and turn it into a script and then turn it into a short film?
You know, honestly, probably the most insightful question. So Luna, thank you. I mean, I also, by the way, I believe architects are probably the most creative people because architecቶች ብዙ ሊሚቴሽን ውስጥ ነው የሚሰሩት እና አርኪቴክት ሆኖ ክሬቲቭ መሆን በጣም ብዙ like thinking የሚጠይቅ ስራ ነው እና I'm telling you, Luna, I guarantee you you're going to be an amazing filmmaker. Just because you're training established already, so you በራስሽ ላይ ኮንፊደንስ አድቫይስ ልስጥሽ I'm going to give an exercise to everybody. ለሁላችሁ አንድ ቻሌንጅ ልስጣችሁ አንድ ሳምንት ውስጥ ማድረግ የምትችሉት ሁላችሁም I want you to make this film. አንድ ቀን ውስጥ ከጠዋት አንድ ሰው ሲነሳ ከእንቅልፉ ሲነሳ እና ቤት ውስጥ ከቤቱ ወጥቶ ቤት ውስጥ ሲገባ የሶስት ፔጅ ስክሪፕት ስሩ። በዚህ ሶስት ፔጅ ውስጥ ሶስት ነገር ይሆናል። ይሄ ልጅ ይሄ ሰው ይሄ ወንድ ልጅም ሆነ ሴት ልጅም ሆነ አዛውንት ወጣት ትንሽ ልጅ ጠዋት ይነሳል ትነሳለች ከቤቷ ትወጣለች ሁለት ሶስት ነገር ያጋጥማታል ቤቷ ትገባለች ቤቱ I'm going to give you ይሄንን ኤክሰርሳይዝ ስትጽፉ በሶስት ፔጅ ውስጥ አድቫይስ ልስጧችሁ። ይሄንን የሰጠኋችሁን ቲፕ keep it simple, be creative። ሁለቱ ነገሮች በጣም ኢምፖርታንት። አሁን ለምሳሌ ይሄ ልጅ ይሄ ጠዋት ይነሳል ማታ ቤቱ ይገባል ብያለሁ አይደል? or whatever ይመለሳል ብያለሁ አይደል? ብዙዎቻችሁ ምንድን ነው የምታስቡት right now? አልጋ ውስጥ ያለ ያ ሰው ያለው አላርም አለው ይነሳል አላርሙን ያያል ጥርሱን ይቦረሻል ቁርስ ይበላል ከቤት ይወጣል አይደል? This is not creative። ይሄንን ፊልም በጭራሽ እንዳትሰሩ እሺ። ኤቭሪባዲ የሚሰራው አይምሮአችሁ ውስጥ ያለው የተቀረጸው በፊልምም በሆሊውድ ውስጥ የተሰራ ፊልም እና ይሄንን ነገር አትስሩ። ክሪኤቲቭ ሆኖ ስራችሁ ምንድነው ይሄ ሰው የት ነው የሚነሳው ብላችሁ ራችሁ ጠይቁ። ሞስት ኢንትረስቲንግ ፕሌስ የሚነሳው it could be you know out of commission የሆነ አውቶቡስ ውስጥ ነው የሚነሳው ጠዋት ጋቢ ለብሶ whatever like መንገድ ዳር ተኝቶ ማታ አምሽቶ ሰክራ whatever መንገድ ዳር ድንጋይ ላይ ተኝታ ነው የምትነሳው። much more interesting, much more creative አይደል? ሲወጣ ያ ሰው ቡና ይጠጣል ጠዋት ወይስ ቡና አፎርድ ማድረግ አይችልም? ይሄ የመጀመሪያ ቻሌንጅ ነው። ሁለተኛ ነገር ስልኩ ጠፍቶበታል። ስልኩን ማግኘት አለበት ያ ሰው ሄዶ ስልኩን ያገኛል ከአንድ ቦታ unlikely የሆነ ቦታ most creative ቦታ ቤቱ ወይ አውቶቡሱ ሲመለስ something interesting አይደል? I think ሁላችሁም ይሄን ነገር አንድ ሁለት ቀን ውስጥ መጻፍ ትችላላችሁ። መማክራችሁ ነገር ምንድነው? ይሄንን ስክሪፕት ጻፉት። ለእያንዳንዳችሁ ለየት የሚያደርገው ምንድነው? እያንዳንዱ ዲሲዥን በዛ ስቶሪ ላይ የምትሰሩት የተለየ ክሪኤቲቭ አይነት ሀሳብ አምጡት ወደዛ። ሲምፕል አድርጉት። አንድ ሰው ምናልባት ሁለት ሶስት ሰዎች ከጨመራችሁበት ከቀለላችሁ ማለት ትችላላችሁ። በብላክ ኤንድ ዋይት ትሰሩታላችሁ። ሲምፕል ሎኬሽን። So anyway, ይሄንን ቻሌንጅ ብትሰሩት ደስ ይለኛል። I want to see how that looks. Luna, to your question, ለኔ as a filmmaker, I'm fearless. I care. You know, honestly, ለራሴ ነው የምሰራው ፊልሞች። Really, እኔ ደስ የሚያሰኙ ነገሮች ነው የምሰራው። Plus, I'm okay. ጥሩ ቢሆን I don't care. ኤዲት አድርገሽ እንዴት ነው ሲምፕል ነገር የምትሰሪ? በቃ start simple. 3 ፔጅ ቀላል ነገር just do something ማድረግ የምትችይው። ከዛ ኮምፕሊኬትድ የሆነውን ስክሪፕት ትሰሪዋለሽ። By the way, anytime የፊልም ሀሳቦች ሲመጡልኝ ጽፋቸዋለሁ። I write them down. በኮምፒውተሬ ላይ ኦርጋናይዝድ የሆነ ለስክሪፕት ብቻ የሚሉ ሀሳቦች አሉ። ወደ 30-40 የሚሆኑ ስክሪፕቶች አሉ። ሀሳቦች just an idea። አንዳንዶቹን አይዲያዎችን ወስጄ ፉል ስክሪፕት ጽፌያለሁ። at least 6-7 የሚሆኑ ስክሪፕቶች ጽፌያለሁ። አንዳንዶቹን እንደ አውትላይን ሰርቻቸዋለሁ። ግን ዋናው ነገር መስራት የምፈልገው እንጂ ኔክስት ፕሮጀክት ኦልሬዲ ጽፌ ጨርሼዋለሁ። ኦልሬዲ ሬዲ ነኝ ሹት ነው። አሁን 2 ሾርት ፊልሞች አሉ። ሆፕፉሊ የሚቀጥለው ወር ውስጥ ፊልም ማድረጋቸው ራሴ ዳይሬክት ማድረገው ሲኔማቶግራፈር ቀጥሬያለሁ። ፕሮዲውሰር አለኝ። አንቺ ላልሽው ነገር ምንድን ነው? ቀላል ያለ ነገር ለራስሽ መጀመሪያ ስጪና ከዛ more complicated ያለሽ ትሰሪያለሽ። before you know it feature film ትሰሪያለሽ። I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
3 pages, simple story. Morning, 3 things happen. Comes home, or she comes home. I think you can do it. if we don't have any more questions, I'm more than happy to wrap up. Any presentation ለቶማስ ልክላቸዋለሁ እሱም ሼር አድርጋላችሁ።
Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Bam, for this great presentation. Great.
My pleasure.
And have a good day, and congratulations on
Thank
being
you
a
so
new
much.
dad.
Instagram ላይ ለአንድ ወር off Instagram I've taken around my phone ስለዚህ ከፈለጋችሁ በትዊተር ላኩልኝ ኢሜይልም ዌብሳይቴ ላይ ያለ ከፈለጋችሁ በቶማስም ታገኙ ትችላላችሁ ኦርጋናይዘሮች anyway best of luck I'm really excited የምትሰሩትን ስራ ማየት ፈልጋለሁ hopefully ይሄ ረድቷችኋል እና good luck peace
Thank you በጣም እናመሰግናለን thank you so much